drop and give me 25. I'm the gunny.
It's time for the gunny.
The quarter deck. Lights. Get online right now. You got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Hello, my bunch of knuckle-dragging, beer-drinking, hard-charging devil dogs. You're listening to The Quarter Deck. I am your host, Miguel, the Gunny Signs.
Get off the bus!
I do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend
The Constitution of the United States.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another episode on The Quarter Deck with Miguel, the Gunny Signs. And I hope that everyone had a great and outstanding Christmas with your family, and you enjoyed all that great, delicious food, because I know we did here in our household. This week, we're going to continue our reading of our book with the 1st Marine Division in Iraq in 2003. No greater friend, no worst enemy, and we're going to take a look at how Major Hassan played such an incredible role in the success of the 1st Marine Division as they prepared their attack into Iraq all the way into Baghdad. In our hero highlights this week, we are going to look at Cpl Anthony Casamento, United States Marine Corps, and his Medal of Honor citation, and his heroism and what he did to earn him that medal on Guadalcanal in 1942. The Quarter Deck. As we mark our calendars and when we move closer and closer to the end of the year, can you guys believe that it's already the 29th of December? It's just like yesterday that we started the year in 2022. And I gotta tell you, even for me, this year has flown by so fast. So many things have happened this year for me. One of the highlights of the year, of course, was me graduating from the Academy of Art University. And I know that I have a lot of people that listen to me from the Academy. Shout out to you guys for a great and outstanding year. And I'm sure that all the students that are graduating this year have learned so much from all of the instructors. But for me, it was a great accomplishment. If you think about it, as a Hispanic, very few people in families of a Hispanic tradition rarely get the opportunity to actually accomplish a high goal of completing higher education. And for so long, that was my mentality forever. And I'm thankful to my wife, because without her pushing me and nagging me every single day, being my household Karen, I'm just kidding, honey, I'm sure you're listening. But without her push and keeping me going, I don't think that would have ever happened. I mean, think about it for a second. When I first started my journey in higher education, I was actually still on active duty, and I enrolled in the program of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. And I got to tell you guys, I am almost completely done with my bachelor's degree in that program. I have 8 credits to go before I actually get my degree. But I decided to move away from that, because the only purpose that I started going to school to earn that degree was because once I retired from active duty in the Marine Corps, my goal was to work for the Border Patrol as a Border Patrol agent. Well, as you can see, that goal did not happen. Now, it's nothing to do with my part, but I was able to succeed in the interview process, the written examination, the physical. I completed everything. The last obstacle that I had in my path was actually doing the polygraph. Now, for many years, I have heard from many people that their polygraph way of doing things is flawed and they do not do it correctly. So many people actually are not picked for the academy because of that flaw in the process of them doing the polygraph. Well, I fell into that category. I got to Yuma, Arizona, and that was the last thing I needed to do was my polygraph. And I went and did it and all that stuff. And they actually had me do it up in Phoenix, is where I did my polygraph. Well, I did all that stuff and everything. And some of the questions that they ask you, oh my gosh, I'm not going to repeat them because I don't know if they prefer people not knowing exactly what it was, because I know they told me that I wouldn't let anybody know the questions or the process or anything like that. So I am not going to get into that. But I got to tell you, man, it was by far the most stressful environment that they had me in. And so it was kind of hard to stay calm and relaxed and be able to answer their questions. But whatever, what's done is done. And I am completely grateful at the fact that I was not selected to do that, because I can tell you now, I wouldn't have had that much of a great time being gone all the time, because it's pretty much like being on active duty all over again, being deployed, because everybody that I know that's actually doing the CBP thing or the Border Patrol, they work in shifts, in rotations. So sometimes they're gone for a week or two, and then they come home for a week, then they're gone for another week or two, and then they come home. So it's just like being on a damn deployment. So why the hell would I want to do that? So I'm grateful. I'm thankful to God that it didn't happen, because for whatever reason, it was taken out of my path and I was able to move on and do bigger and greater things. Now, because of that, in 2016, that's when I started working for the VA. And I worked with them for all the way up until 2021. And that's when I switched over my degree and I found the Academy of Art University. And I noticed that they did offer online courses to be able to do and be able to actually earn your degree. Now, ever since I was little, I have always liked picking up a camera, taking pictures, doing video, all that stuff. So I enrolled in the program in the photography department. That's what I wanted to do, because I wanted to be able to take pictures, and not only portraits, but, landscapes and all that stuff. So that's what I did. I used my GI Bill benefits, and I was able to get my associate's degree in photography. When I was done with that, I still had months left over. So I was like, okay, so now what the heck am I going to do? And I did some research and I qualified to be able to use the VRNE program, which is another program that, because of disabilities, the VA has and offers veterans to be able to use to complete any training program to help them to get gainful employment. Now, if you guys remember, I think about 2 months ago when we were talking about the VA and the VRNE program, remember that the VRNE program is not an education program. I was able to use this program to have them help me to get my bachelor's degree in photography to head start my photography business, which is what I kind of do now. I kind of have on the side, a little photography business, and I do what I can because I want to make sure that, my disabilities aren't affected from the things that I'm doing in the photography, which is in a good way. It helps me out, not only that it kind of refocuses my everyday routine that I do every single day, but it actually allows me to open myself up and actually want to communicate with other people besides those that are close to me here at home. It forces me to go out of the house and be out there doing other different things to make sure that I can get the pictures that I need and stuff. And that's beneficial to me. So in a way that I look at it, it's more of a therapeutical type thing. And I've talked to many, many veterans, and a lot of veterans paint, they make crafts, do all these different things. And to me, being a photographer helps me refocus all that. And I'm looking into possibly doing some kind of a nonprofit organization or a club of some kind, because I want to start gathering more and more veterans for us to get together and talk about our art, the pictures that we do, and who knows, maybe get veterans from everywhere throughout the United States to get together, whether it's in a Facebook page, a group, whatever, and allow us to be able to share all these things, because I'm sure there are so many veterans out there that can benefit from a program like that. And I'm sure that there are other programs similar to that, but I want to have something that, we can use positively. People can see that it really has helped veterans. It has helped us to move on with our daily lives. So for me, finding the Academy of Art University, that's where it helped me with all this. It helped me to learn the skills, the fundamentals, and things that I needed to learn in order to make myself better. Now, I got to tell you guys, for me, it was a great find because I was able to learn from the basics, moving on to more of the expertise environment of learning how to take these professional pictures. And I've been doing that since 2016. So I got my associates, I got my bachelor's degree in photography. After that, I said, okay, I'm done. I've gotten all the skills that I need. I'm ready to go out there and do this part-time in the real world and all that stuff. When I was done with my bachelor's program, I then found out that I still had 15 months left of my post 9/11 education benefit. So, now, what am I going to do with these past couple of months? I wasn't able to transfer it to my kids because I waited too long when I was still on active duty, and that's not a possibility. That wasn't an option. So I went back to the Academy of Art University. I started looking into master's programs that I could possibly do to get my education even higher. I looked into the master's photography department program, and I saw what they had to offer, as well as I looked at other programs that I could actually transfer into because I already had my bachelor's degree and my associate's degree from the academy. So then I found the communications program, comm department, and I started looking to see what they offer, and I submitted an essay letting them know why I wanted to actually be in that department and how I could benefit in learning media communications by me being able to be on camera to speak to people and relate to what they want to listen to. So I enrolled in the comm program for my master's degree, and I graduated from that program in 2021. I was a valedictorian, and I was able to give a speech at the commencement ceremony. And let me tell you guys, coming from a veteran that suffers from PTSD, that was one hell of an accomplishment because I had an auditorium full of a couple thousand people that I was standing in front of on stage. Now, many of you know that with PTSD, hey, we don't like being around people because it just kind of makes us uncomfortable because we're not in control of the situation and we really don't have control on what we can maintain and handle while we're there. But because of everything that I learned to actually balance my emotions, my anxiety, and all those things that I learned, I was able to get on stage and give that speech. For that, I'm going to be forever grateful because all that therapy came from attending this school. And I know that a lot of my instructors are probably listening, so thank you. I appreciate it. I know that the assistant director, Mr. Steve Cotton, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because you have completely changed my life for the skills and the things that I'm going to be able to use it for as I move forward. Along with all those different skills that I learned to be on camera and be able to communicate better, I had my second class regarding podcasting and being able to actually speak on a show and all those different things that I wanted to do. That is why I continued and I started my podcast during that first degree that I was earning through the Academy of Art University. And I got to tell you guys, it's fun, great experience, not only for me, but be able to get on here and actually share the stories that we're able to share with you guys. But working on the communication skills. Right when I was about to get out of the service, out of the Marine Corps, my CO, my battery commander, he continued to always tell me that I better work on my people skills now that I was about to get out of the service. Now, for those of you that are active duty or retired, you know exactly what he meant by that. That we have to work on our people skills and how we communicate with each other now that we're not in the service. Because like I said a couple episodes ago, in the civilian world, they do not really speak the way that we speak. They don't speak Marine Corps isms, as I always call them. So that is one of the main things that I learned in the communications department, the way to actually be able to speak to individuals in a way that they're going to understand me and actually be able to maintain their awareness toward me to make sure that they want to listen to me. That's the most important thing because you want to make sure that they're interested in what the heck you're talking about. And that's what we kind of been working on here in the past couple of episodes. For many months, we focused on talking about the VA and some of the things that veterans are able to do to be able to make sure that they are going to be successful and financially stable with something else that they can actually use because of their disabilities. Money's great to have it there. But the most important thing that I always get across is that, if you get money from the VA from your disability claim, great. It's not the most important thing. The most important thing is your health. You want to make sure that everything is going to be taken care of now that you're out of the service, because all those things that happened while you were in active duty, they're going to get worse as you move on. So remember what we talked about the VA and va.gov, and you to be able to go there and actually submit your claim, file your disabilities, to ensure that you're going to be able to be taken care of for the rest of your life, and not just you, but your family, because a lot of those disabilities that you've gotten since you've been in the service, they can benefit from those too. And you can actually help them in the future, especially depending on your rating. If you're 100% permanently and totally disabled, your dependents are going to be able to qualify for an education benefit. Go back and listen to our VA podcast, where I go into a lot more detail explaining to you guys how those benefits can actually help them to ensure that they get a higher education, and at least some of it's going to be paid for. Not all of it, but something that's going to be able to help them to cover their education once they're ready to go to school. So along with all that stuff, let's get back on track so we can start talking more about my success in 2022. And I call it success because it is successful to me. But that was the highlight, the graduation ceremony. And we flew into San Francisco. Last time when I went to my commencement ceremony for my associate's degree in photography. Now, this was the first time that I've actually ever been to the commencement ceremony, so I didn't quite know exactly what to expect. But we were in the back, and I can remember that with that program, I was the oldest one in the program, because I had a lot of people that, just graduated high school. They went to the academy and continued their education, and they were about to graduate. So they were like in their 20s, the ones that were graduating and stuff. So I was kind of the older one that were there. And I got to tell you guys, trying to get people to move around is like herding sheep. It's just simply like trying to get a bunch of staff NCOs in formation for an award ceremony or something. You're herding them like sheep because, oh, I'm in charge and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, these were a bunch of young kids and stuff. So they're really having a hard time getting them ready to go for the commencement ceremony. And here I had all the individuals that were graduating with an associate's degree from all the different departments in the academy. And, I kind of helped out and told them, hey, let's get in line because we got to get ready to go. So everybody got in line, and I ended up being the one in the front of the line. I really had no idea what that meant or whatever, but I was the front of the line, so I was able to walk in to the auditorium and actually sit down. To my surprise, because I was in the front of the line and they did the associate degrees first, I was the very first one to actually walk across the stage right after the valedictorian. So that was a plus, I guess. Not for my wife, though, because she wasn't ready to take pictures or anything else, because she was caught by surprise that I was the very first one to walk across that stage. But that was good. I was able to get my degree, got done. I didn't go back for my bachelor's degree because, everything was online due to COVID and all that stuff. So the commencement ceremony was done virtually online. And we were able to invite our families to log on there to be able to have our name called out when they went through everybody that was actually graduating. So that was an interesting experience. And I got to tell you guys, during that time, it was different for everybody because nobody had any graduation ceremonies or anything throughout the whole United States. The world, as a matter of fact, they weren't doing that. Once I was done with that summer, I found out that I had all those credits still. So I called my counselor and I was able to actually enroll in the communications department to get my master's degree in communications and media technology. And as they say, the rest is history. And now I'm just, getting little projects done here and there with this podcast. I record it every single week. I'm able to get my notes done during the week of what I want to talk about with you guys. And I'm grateful because I'm getting a lot more communication through our Facebook page, the Quarterdeck with Gunny Signs. And more people are logging on and asking questions and gathering more information. I'm starting to look for guests to be able to come onto the show, and we're going to be able to get you here on the show via telephone, or if I have you locally here, you can come into the studio and we'll be able to actually sit down here and record the show live here in the studio so we can go ahead and upload it during that week. So it's growing. I thank all you guys for helping me get this show growing a little bit, for sharing it, for jumping on Facebook and downloading the actual podcast. And I got to say that the download rate has increased. And I'm very, very thankful to all of you for taking time out of your day and listening to what I have to say and talking about whatever it is that we want to talk about during that week. Remember that as we move past the rest of this week coming up during this last portion of the holiday season, remember our veterans, remember our service members that are deployed. Give them a shout out every once in a while and send them a prayer so that way they come home safely. And those that are alone during this time, that they find the peace and are able to actually spend their day in a good old fashion and not have to worry about being alone. The Quarterdeck is brought to you by Miguel Science Photography. From the beginning of your family to the first birthday and beyond. Whether it's a retirement or a Marine Corps ball, Miguel Science Photography is there to make memories that will last a lifetime. Miguel Science Photography is a certified veteran-owned business. Contact them at miguelsciencephotography.com.
What we're gonna do right here is go back. Way back into time.
No matter what you do in life, whether it's in the military or in the civilian world, it's always great to have some kind of an ally, somebody that's going to be there to help you, to guide you, to ensure that things are done correctly. And this week in our book, With the 1st Marine Division in Iraq of 2003, No Greater Friend, No Worse Enemy, we're going to talk about how the 1st Marine Division used Major Hassan and what a great impact on the success of the 1st Marine Division he had in his role in how the division actually used them to their advantage to make sure that they were going to be successful once they headed into Iraq and ensured that they had a successful campaign all the way into Baghdad. So let's take a look at how Major Hassan had an effect in his role. Few individuals had a greater impact on the success of the division's preparations than Major Hassan of the Kuwaiti Ministry of the Interior. This imposing figure had worked the murderous Kuwait-Iraq border area for over a decade and was one of the most knowledgeable advisors the division was to gain. Major Hassan was introduced to the division's commander as a Kuwaiti border guard officer who could discuss the activities of the Iraqis, Kuwaitis, and the UN along the border. It soon became clear that Major Hassan had tremendous insight into the situation along the border area. With a charming personality and an unveiled passion to assist the Marines in taking out the Saddam regime, he soon was considered a friend by many members of the division. Over the course of the months, Major Hassan was to provide access to sensitive border areas to enable the division's attack, route planning, and leaders' reconnaissance. He provided key intelligence of Iraqi patterns of activity in the border area. They described the plight of poor Iraqi people oppressed in southern Iraq. With Major Hassan as a guide, many of the division's commanders and key staff members got a close look at the border obstacles and routes that would take them into the initial steps in the march to remove Saddam. Major Hassan proved a true friend of the 1st Marine Division and an important agent from the liberation of the Iraqi people. In August of 2003, he received a commendation from the Division CG for his invaluable advice and coordination. More importantly, he earned the fondness and respect of the Marines who served along him. Hero highlight. Cpl Anthony Casamento, born 16 November 1920 in Manhattan, New York, was presented the Medal of Honor by President Jimmy Carter on 12 September of 1980 in a ceremony in the White House Rose Garden 38 years after Cpl Casamento's heroism on Guadalcanal in 1942. Cpl Casamento enlisted in the Marine Corps on 19 August of 1940 in New York City. After completing recruit training at Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Parris Island, South Carolina, he was assigned to the 5th Marines 1st Marine Division. 6 months after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the 5th Marines was on its way to the Southwest Pacific to take part in the initial invasion of Japanese-held territory as part of the 1st Marine Division. The Marine landing on Guadalcanal began in August of 1942, and Cpl Casamento made the assault with Company D, 1st Battalion, 5th Marines. On 1 November of 1942, while serving as a leader of a machine gun squad, Cpl Casamento's Marines came under heavy enemy fire near the Patanacao River. During the ensuing battle, all members of the unit were either killed or severely wounded. Despite his own multiple wounds, Cpl Casamento continued to provide supporting fire and heroically held the enemy at bay, thereby protecting the flanks of adjoining companies until he was physically unable to continue. Cpl Casamento was treated at a medical aid station, then shipped back to the United States and admitted to the Naval Hospital in Oakland, California. In 1964, it was learned that 2 eyewitnesses to Cpl Casamento's heroism were still alive. That set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately result in his receiving the Medal of Honor in 1980. In addition to the Medal of Honor, Cpl Casamento's awards include the Purple Heart, the World War II Victory Medal, the American Campaign Medal, the Asiatic Pacific Medal with 2 bronze stars, the Presidential Unit Citation, and the American Defense Service Medal. Cpl Casamento died 27 July of 1987 in the VA hospital in Northport, New York after a long illness. The quarterdeck. So far we've been looking at so many of these wonderful Americans, these heroes, these Marines back in the 1940s during World War II. What can we say about these great men? These men that did so many wonderful things for this great country of ours. This week we learned how the 1st Marine Division in 2003 has utilized its available resources that they have in Kuwait to ensure that they're going to be successful once they cross the border and they head into Iraq, making their way up into Baghdad. Major Hassan was one of those vital and key assets that the division had in order to make sure that this was going to be a successful mission. Force protection is what we're going to look at next week. How important is that going to be to ensure that they have the protection that the division is going to need once they are into country? This is the last week of December, and we have to remember that the holiday season, while it's great to be around family, celebrate, and have all those great times, there may be some veterans out there, some service members or family members of veterans that may be dealing with the holiday season on their own. Like I mentioned to everybody in the past couple of weeks, there are many times when, as an active duty service member, I just simply wasn't able to go home. Whether it was on deployment or I just had to stay back because leave had to be broken down to port and starboard to allow us to ensure that we had individuals back to take care of anything that might have come up with the unit or any kind of training or things like that might have popped up. Those times can be lonely. They can be lonely for you to be there by yourself and not have any immediate family around you. So let's not forget about the Veterans Crisis Line that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with a certified counselor that can talk to individuals that may need the assistance because they may be dealing with certain things that are deep inside. Let's remember that not all injuries are visible. There are some individuals that are suffering internally in the inside that may just simply need somebody to talk to. So let's not forget the Veterans Crisis Line, and all you simply got to do is let these veterans know that they can dial 988 and then press 1, and they can be connected to a certified counselor for them to be able to talk to. So here's to us wishing you a Happy New Year and hope that everybody had a Merry Christmas. And we look forward to our next episode in 2023. Until then, this is the Gunny sounding Liberty Call.
Get out the bus!
I do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend
The Constitution of the United States.